Good morning and welcome. I'm your host, Denise Griffitts. And in this episode of the Closers Inner Circle podcast, my co host and mentor, legendary sales trainer Ben Gay III, reflects on the timeless lessons that he learned from his greatest mentors. And that's wisdom that continues to guide his work and his life to this day. And it trickles down to people like me. He's still sharing what he learned, and I'm still picking up little tidbits all over the place and writing them down. We're picking up from where we left off last week. There was really just too much to talk about. So, from mastering the art of influence to understanding the psychology of human connection, Ben shares the strategies, stories, and turning points that shaped him into one of the most respected voices in sales. And I have to tell you, in my LinkedIn newsletter today, and I hadn't planned to write about this, but I hadn't planned to write about Dr. Napoleon Hill in chapter 6 in Think and Grow Rich. I actually had a completely different article queued up and ready to go. But after our conversation last week, it seemed only right to slightly shift gears. And here's why. Because Ben mentioned that he feels the tide is turning back in America, pointing to ads and corporate behavior, specifically not Coca-Cola, Cracker Barrel. And he compared it to the backlash against New Coke. And that's a story he's told, but I'll get him to tell it again, calling it a Cracker Barrel lesson. And that connection to Coca-Cola, which was part of chapter 6 in the book, made the timing of today's article feel perfectly aligned. And I hope that you will read it and comment. Today, we are sponsored. Hang on a second. I don't want to cough on you. We are sponsored by Roberta Fernandez. She is an emotional intelligence trainer, a hypnotist, and the creator of the Conscious Napping app, Napping. It's just what you think it is. And I'll be honest, sleep has never been one of my strong skills. In fact, I often complain that sleeping cuts into my reading time. I get a little cranky about it. And that's why I really like this app, and I use it myself every night. And in just a few minutes, Roberta guides you through calming sessions that help you relax, reset, and get the rest you need. And with more than 100 sessions available in English and in Spanish, there's something for everyone. Learn more at robertafernandez.com/conscious napping. You'll like it. I promise you will. Ben, good morning.
Good morning. How are you?
I'm here. I'm yakety yakking. I'm good. I think I
So,
drank
so
too
everything is
much
normal.
tea. Yeah, I drank it. I got myself a giant mug the other day. It's really pretty and it's now my favorite mug, but I could put way too much tea in it. And tea affects me the way coffee affects other people. So I might be a little jittery. So you'll have to walk me off the ledge.
I'm very- I have to admit this. I drink those little sticks where you tear off the end and pour it in. I don't know what they're called. I call them drink sticks.
Yeah.
But I get the iced tea, Southern iced tea version, and I I really like them. And I've got a big mug, with the handle on the side. I go through 4 or 5 of those a day. Not for the tea, just it makes water taste good. And Gigi's always after me. You got to drink more water. You got to drink more water. I said I drink more than a camel drinks, but
There's
I
water
don't.
in that cup. Yeah.
Yeah, she won't give me credit because it tastes like iced tea. I don't
Oh,
understand that. Water is water.
yeah, it is. And I happen to like water, just the taste of, and I can tell different bottled waters. I can tell
Hmm.
if I bought it from Super One. I can tell if I bought it from Walmart. I can tell if it's well water. Water is, I'll drink it all day, every day. I love the taste. Go figure. And people say, well, there's no taste. Yeah, there is. But
Yeah, well, to me,
you have
there's
to be
no
aware of
taste,
it.
but I'm
Really?
confident. They couldn't sell all that bottled water if there wasn't a taste difference.
There
Uh,
is.
yeah,
Yeah.
Gigi drinks out of those big bottles with a handle on the top, and there's always one in the refrigerator and 3 in the pantry. And I said, honey, we live in an area where the tap water is highly rated. She said, for you, I won't drink it.
Oh, and see, I drink my tap water. I'll drink it out of the hose.
Me too.
I know, it's fun. It really is. I do have to
I
be careful,
don't
though.
anymore. I don't anymore. We all grew up drinking out of the hose. There was a cute thing on the internet the other day that flashed by. It said why farm kids have a high immune system. And there was a big uh, water bucket, I forget what like a wash tub
Right.
full of water. And on one side was a horse drinking, and on the other side, almost nose to nose, was a little boy, I'm guessing 3 or 4 years old, and they were drinking out of the same wash tub. And
Yeah.
that was the comment. That's the reason they have a high immune system. Uh,
And, I think that's true. My grandparents had a farm. We would go there every summer and we would drink out of the troughs. We didn't drink out of anything the pigs were close to, though. We knew better than that. But, horses, we didn't care. They were clean. They're probably cleaner
yeah,
than the dog was.
yeah, if you're thirsty and it's there, you drink it.
You drink it. That's exactly right. So what do you want to talk about? Well, I know we had a few questions that I didn't get to last week. And one of them, I think, was what was the most unusual or surprising sales lesson that you picked up that still works for you? I mean, you've never changed it. You don't need to.
I've told this before, but the first thing is be prepared. When I walk into someone's office or however we encounter each other, including on the internet, I always look around and make sure I have everything I'm supposed to have, and pens, paper, notepads, notes about that person, notes about the product or service we're going to talk about, or up on the screen or whatever preparation. And the reason is one day, and I think this will ring a bell with you, but the manufacturer's representative I worked with and for, George Friesen, uh, I sold for him what I bought from him when I was a young buyer at Macy's in Atlanta. They called it Davison's, but it was Macy's. And then he hired me away. So one of my first projects, he said, "I'm gonna get you off on a roll. Indiana glass. That's a white glass, milk glass that your flowers come in or what have you. Usually they come to you via a florist.
Is
And
that hobnail stuff that's so ugly?
yeah, usually it is not
Yeah.
particularly attractive.
No, it
But
always got thrown in the trash.
most people store them and then wonder, they make up stories about family heirlooms. What it was somebody went to a prom and they got some roses and it came in
Right.
Indiana milk glass and somebody didn't throw it out. So anyway, one of his clients was Indiana glass and they were getting rid of a whole bunch of their various models. And he said, "I've got a carload and I'll give it all to you. You go sell it." And he gave me a commission that it would have equaled, if I sold it all, would have equaled my biggest year in history up until that point. So I said, great. And did a little research, talked to my father, who was a prominent businessman in Atlanta. And he told me, here's who you go see. They're the largest florist in town, and they um, sell to other florists things that, wholesale Indiana glass among them, because they can buy in such quantities. It's cheaper for the florist to buy from another florist than it is to buy direct. I said, great. So did a little research, went out and called on the guy, and he looked at everything, and he said, well, as you know, I didn't, but he thought I did or should. He said, as you know, I buy all this stuff at regular price anyway. So, and this was like 50% off regular prices, but discontinued. And I said, well, great. You understand they're discontinued. He said, my customers don't know or care, nor do I.
All
It
right.
serves the purpose. I said, great. He says, I'll take it all. And in one sale, one little brief presentation, I had just made more money, as I said, than I would have made in a year or two under my previous plan. I was really excited. So I whipped out my notepad, my order pad, and I said, well, I've still got to list it all. And he said, yeah, I understand. Take your time. I said, may I borrow a pen? He said, for what? I said, to write up the order. I don't have a pen on me. And I'm paraphrasing, but the gist of the conversation from that point on went like this. Young man, you're not going to be happy with what I'm about to say, but I'm going to teach you a lesson that you will carry with you for the rest of your life. The order is canceled. Why is the order canceled? Because you, as a salesman, called on me without a pen in your pocket. I'm surprised you have an order pad. And so I'm sure you were already counting up your commission, whatever it was, but there won't be one, at least from me. Have a wonderful day, and I wish you nothing but the best. And he said, in the future, you're welcome to come back, just not on that subject with this stuff. You're going to have to go sell that to somebody else. And now I have, as I'm sitting here talking to you, there's probably 10 pens within sight that I can reach and get, and one in my pocket. And I got out of the shower not too long ago with a grease pencil hanging on a cord in the shower and a Formica board to write on, much to Gigi's chagrin. And I have pens in the car and next to the bed, and everywhere I tend to frequent, there's a memo pad with a pen clipped to it. So as far as something I think of, I don't remember the guy's name. In fact, momentarily, I can't remember the name of the company. It was the biggest florist in Atlanta in the early 60s. And that's one of those you carry with you forever. As I go out the door, the last thing I do is pat my right front pocket to make sure there's a pen there. He taught me a lesson I will never forget, and I've taught that lesson to hundreds of thousands, if not a couple of million people. Be prepared. And it's not just pens, it's everything.
Everything, right?
Yeah, you got to have it all. And I don't remember now what it was, but I think he cost me. I cost
You
myself.
cost you. I was going to say, no, no, no. I was going to
He
jump in and
cost.
correct you. Yeah.
Yeah, he. The event cost me. I don't know, $5,000 or $10,000 that day in 1961-ish dollars, which today is a tremendous amount. Back then, it was a tremendous amount of money when you're making $100 a week. But there's a lesson, and I've had many customers over the years teach me similar lessons, and so I sometimes if they don't buy, I'll say, deal's over. I'm not trying to close you anymore. Why didn't you buy? So I don't encounter this problem next time. And occasionally that'll save a sale. But what I really want to know is why didn't you buy? It
Mm-hmm.
might it might be a condition, not an objection. They may not have the money. They may not need it now. Come back in 6 months when we're out of whatever it is, or we're getting low on, or whatever. But I'm not shy about asking. I never leave a customer's office or telephone conversation or internet without knowing why something didn't happen. My closing rate, as you know, is 86%, not taking book orders, but on substantial sales that could go either way and make a difference. And the reason it's as high as 86% is I found out why, and I don't repeat that mistake if it was one. Here's another one: worn out phrases. Years ago, at the Wilson Learning Corporation, Larry Wilson and Wade Cannon, who was one of my mentors, they both were, but Wade was a good friend and personal mentor, and I decided to sit down and come up with some clever phrases. And among the ones we came up with was feel, felt, found. That was over a lunch in Minneapolis, Minnesota. And, I know how you feel. Others have found the same thing. Or, excuse me, I know how you feel. Others have felt the same way. Here's what they found, by taking positive action. And it was miraculous. I mean, it changed sales instantly. Flip sales I wouldn't have made into successes, did it for lots of other people, and became so popular that it became part of the normal conversation in business. to the point. One day I said to a customer, well, I know how you feel. In fact, I felt the same way. And he said, and now you're going to tell me what you found, aren't you?
Yes, I am.
Yeah. Yeah. If you'll shut up for a minute, yeah, I will. So if something can get so popular, it wears itself out and you can't use it for a while. I'm starting to see it come back again, but it had to go away for 25, 30 years. Another one we came up with that the thing. One was to say to yourself, and then out loud, he's asking me a question. What is the question he's asking me? And when you were comfortable with it and the situation fit, you would say to the customer or prospect, you're asking me fill in the blank. And so I want to make sure that is the question you're asking or some variation thereof. And one guy said to me, I'm not asking you a question. I'm making a statement. I'm not going to buy your product. I said,
Mhm.
oh, thank you for clearing that up for me. I was taught, helped create the term. I was taught to ask you if it was a question. No question, young man.
No question, leave me alone.
Yeah, next. And the other one, I won't bore you with the whole story, but the be honest with your customers, especially in this day and age when they can check everything you say instantly. And they probably already know more about you and your product than you do because knowing you were coming or going to be on the phone with them, whatever, they researched it. If we had dinner with my son, his roommate, and Gigi last night, the four of us, and he's of that generation. He's not allowed to use the phone while I'm buying dinner unless it's to look up a question, it's something that came up in conversation. And I was amazed. I mean, this isn't new, but I was watching him 3 or 4 times during the evening. Something came up it wasn't a clear cut answer as to who it was, when it was, whatever. And Tony whipped his cell phone out of his shirt, tap, 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 and gave us the right answer. Well, that's your customer now. So when I told a prospect in North Carolina that another person was buying this hairspray I was selling by the caseload, by the truckload or carload, uh, I, I could do that with freedom because there was no way to check it. And I was lying, flat out lying. I intended to call on them and I expected them to buy that way, but I hadn't called on them with this product yet and hadn't asked for the order. He picks up the phone and says to his secretary, get Sybil on the phone. Well,
Sybil.
Sybil was the secretary
Sybil
to
makes
the man that
everybody yeah.
it's the man I just claimed bought all this stuff.
Anybody
And
who
I
has ever listened to us knows that if you hear Sybil, you're going to shudder. It's just
run
yeah.
every night at dinner when I was still living at home or visiting. Dad would have a story about Sybil. She was the bane of his existence. He had unfettered access to the orders and everything at Big Apple, Alterman Brothers, unless Sybil got involved. If Sybil got, he hated Sybil. So when this guy says, get Sybil in Atlanta, I think he said in Atlanta, get Sybil in Atlanta on the phone, the hair on the back of my neck went up. He then excused himself to go to the bathroom or something. He said, I'll be right back. I picked up my business card, all the samples I had brought him, jammed them in my briefcase, and ran from the building,
I'm surprised you
hoping.
didn't wipe your fingerprints.
Yeah, yeah, I should have wiped it down. It never came up with my father, but for months, I dreaded that thing. Did you call on so and so in North Carolina? And I had my story. It reminded me, I heard this thing the other day. Little boy is with his, let's say, aunt. It's not important to the story. And she says, I wonder if it's okay to give you, you had a soft drink this morning, if I can give you another one. And he said, oh, yeah, yeah. Mom said I can have all the soft drinks I want. She said,
Mm-mm.
really?
You took it too
And
far.
And he says, "Oh yeah." And she picks up her phone and begins pretending to punch in the mother's phone number. She said, "Let me just run this by her to make sure." And she gets to the fourth digit, and the little kid says, "I hope I'm not lying." So
That kid grew up to be a politician. He's a governor somewhere.
yeah, yeah, and now he's governor so and so. But
Yeah.
I hope I'm not lying, and that's crossed my mind. So if I'm selling you and I tell you something, it's the absolute truth because I've had enough nightmares not to want to go through. It's not worth it. The Indiana glass and the hairspray. I'm a slow learner. It took two or three of those events before I thought, hey, I got an idea. A friend of mine used to say, when all else fails, try the absolute blanking truth.
Well, and you don't
And
have to remember the lies.
right.
Lies are difficult to recall. They're sneaky, they wander off, and you're like, okay, did I say that? Did I? Oh, shoot. I'll just tell you the truth. Sometimes it's unpalatable, but I could get by with it in my voice. I could say the most unpalatable things. And they're 5 miles down the road and saying, hey, did you insult me? Why, yes, I did. Was I too subtle? I've had that happen, actually. But yeah, it's just easier to tell the truth.
Hundreds of times in my life, having been raised in the South and spent a lot of time around sweet Southern ladies,
And
somebody
we
in
don't
my
exist, by the way. There's no
well,
such
you
thing as
act
a
like you
sweet
do.
Southern. We do.
You
We're
act like you
very
do.
good. Yeah.
But some lady will say, "Well, bless your heart," and
Yep.
whoever I'm going to say thank you, and I said, "Oh, son, that's not a compliment." She just told. Let me give you the Latin translation of what she just told you, and bless your heart is not on the good list. Or
And bless your little heart, that's really bad. And the other day, I had enough with somebody on Twitter and just had enough. And normally I just stay to myself, it's business only. I'd had enough. And I said, well, bless your pea picking little heart. Boy, that blew
Tennessee
up.
Ernie,
Yeah.
Tennessee Ernie
Tennessee
Ford.
Ernie Ford. But yeah, my grandparents loved him. I heard him every single day. And when he would start with that, my grandparents would say, "You never learned how to say Tennessee. You called him Turney." I guess I did, Turney. But I've always and I hadn't thought of that in forever, but I'd had enough. And that was the most insulting thing I could think of that I would not get kicked out of Twitter for.
He was from the Tri-City area, they call it. I'd be hard pressed to name the three cities, but one of them was Kingsport, Tennessee, and he was from there. And we flew in one day and told our distributors we were coming, so they made an event out of it. Back when a Learjet was newsworthy, we flew in our Learjet to Kingsport, Tennessee, and after everybody was over the excitement of getting to stick their head in it and so on, we went about our business and did about 3 days worth of seminars. In those 3 days, I heard more Tennessee Ernie Ford stories than any time in my life, and I was a fan of his. But Kingsport, Tennessee, had still not gotten over it. And when he came to town, have you ever heard what his favorite thing to do was?
No,
Direct traffic. The
you've
local
got to be kidding
the
me.
local police would lend him a hat and a shirt, and he would direct traffic in Kingsport, Tennessee for hours. He loved it.
I can't even imagine why.
I don't
I'm
know.
running that through my head, and there's no logical reason for that.
Yeah, probably not, but he absolutely loved it. And I never heard anything bad about him. Everything was he's the nicest man, the sweetest gentleman, so and so. Usually there's somebody who'll say, but so on, but not about Tennessee Ernie Ford. He was really admired by those who got to know him personally.
And you know who else? Um, Gomer Pyle, Jim Neighbors.
Oh, yeah.
My friend
I
Jim
never met
Jim
him, but
Tunney. Oh, he and Jim Tunney, my friend Jim, were very, very good friends. And Jim and his wife would go to Hawaii and spend time with Jim and his husband. And They did that for many, many years, and I've never heard anybody say a bad word about Gomer Pyle. It's a
When you
Southern
say
thing. I
his,
don't know. You know?
yeah, when you say his name, and I don't think of him every few minutes, I still remember watching him somewhere. I think it was on television. And when he came out and did the, how are you? And I can't
Right.
do it, but the Southern thing, and then began singing opera.
I know. Yeah, I will.
Unbelievable.
Yep. He had an incredible voice.
And no
Uh,
Southern accent. I mean, he could
no.
sing Italian or English or whatever, no accent. And then he'd quit in the last note and he'd go, well, golly, thank you very much.
You much. Yeah, I don't know what it is, but most Southern people, and I live amongst them, are actually quite nice people. We're not stupid. And I wish people would get over that. We're not. But,
Well, as Dolly Parton says, she's not offended when they say that she's blonde and stupid because she says, I know I'm not stupid and I
and I'm
know I'm
not
not
blonde.
blonde.
Right. I think I told you about her when she was in Natchitoches. They did the movie in Natchitoches, Steel Magnolia.
Hmm.
And that was written by, Julia Roberts. She played the dead girl, the girl that died. And that was actually a true story. The brother lived in Natchitoches. He wrote that screenplay. He wrote that story. People that were in that movie were the people from the hospital there who treated her and were with her when she died. It's a very true story. I knew him. I still know him. He's still there. And I knew his parents who were docents every year, but on the 25th anniversary of that movie, they got together everybody that had been in it, who was part of it. It was amazing. And I was running around just, me, I asked questions. I did some podcasts during it. And you're going to think I'm a lunatic, but me, I have to know. I asked the stupidest questions. I said, listen, out of all of these very famous women, Dolly Parton, all the others that were in it, I said, who is your favorite? Oh, God, it was Dolly Parton. They loved her. And then I said, well, who didn't you like? Across the board, Ben? Sally Fields. The whole town still hates her.
Yeah, I was the first time I heard that from you.
Yeah,
I was amazed because
I was shocked.
her image is one thing. Dolly was so loved, you told me she had to move out of
Yeah,
town.
she did.
I mean,
People
rent a
kept
place
going.
farther
Yeah,
out.
people kept
But
getting because she was on the lake, and people would go up in their little canoes and boats and scuba gear, and they would peek in her window. She had to go out in the woods. They should have
but
known that when
I
they put
was
her there.
amazed that the hatred of Sally Field had
It's
lasted.
still,
First time you told me the story, I think it was a
yeah,
30-year-old story then, and they
yeah,
still
yeah.
hate her.
They still,
It's
every
ama-
time I go to Natchitoches, I'll ask people, yeah, Steel Magnolia, were you here? Were you part of that movie? Oh, yeah. They have great. They loved that movie. How about that Sally Field? Oh, she's a bitch. Really? Okay. It was everybody had it to say. It wasn't just one or two people. The whole town couldn't stand her. I guess her behavior was so egregious that they still, you just don't mess with Southern people. We can carry a grudge like nobody's business.
and the sales lesson in this is develop the caricature that you promote and put forward. And if it's a positive one, as I hope it would be, try hard to become that person. But you can start acting like a wonderful person today.
Right.
And understand there are people who have, Goldwyn said, I don't know what it is, but I know it when I see it. Some people have it, and for some people are born with it, but it's a trainable talent. But you got to work. You got to say, what would I be drawn to? How do I really wish people saw me, and start becoming that person? For Sally Field to have a whole town dislike her 30, 40 years later is
Yeah, it's
rather
startling.
astounding.
Well,
Uh,
and I have to know every time I go to Natchitoches, I'm going, in autumn again. I'm going to ask, y'all still hate Sally Fields? Oh, yeah. Okay, good. I wanted to know. And they would tell stories about her that were just, yeah. And then some people, well, she just had a baby. I don't care.
yeah.
That you just don't treat your fans like that. But anyway, it was a long story, but fascinating, really, really fascinating. But you're right. You can. if you're aware of how you're coming across to people and you're not consistent with showing up as the best version of you, you're going to confuse the heck out of people.
Yeah, and a lot of people in show business came to that understanding either quickly or slowly. But they'll say, back in those early days, people didn't like me. Well, the people haven't changed, so they must have changed if suddenly they are liked. And that's because they picked up the positive attribute, consciously picked up the positive attributes of when they were liked. Um, the I, I have memories of times where people didn't like me. As one of my aunts once said, Bengay's an acquired taste.
Oh,
And that was, well, she loved me dearly and I loved her. She was my favorite aunt, but she was one of those who'd be honest with me. And she called me nephew. Nephew? That's a mistake. Don't do that. Don't do that, so on. Wonderful person. But she caught me, was kind enough to catch me when I had an answer for everything, and I was always right, and I was quick with it because I was semi-intelligent and knew it, and then would play past that. Once you get to be known as intelligent, you can make up things. If you shouldn't, but you can make up things because if you said it, it's probably right. I came into her breakfast room one day visiting her in New England, up from Atlanta, and she said, how are you this morning, nephew? And I said, I'm nauseous. And she said, many people say that about you, but what I asked was, how do you feel? That's when I discovered there was a difference between nauseous and nauseated.
right. And I was going to ask you, did a mentor ever shape your values outside of business, like integrity, resilience, and how to handle failures? And clearly, she was one of your mentors.
Absolutely, she was. And she wasn't without her flaws herself, but she readily admitted them. Like J. Douglas Edwards, if you have a built-in objection, bring it up first and drink and brag about it. She drank a little bit too much. Probably was an alcoholic, but I never saw that. I just thought she was extremely funny. Where the more she drank, the funnier she got, and I guess up to a point. But I learned little lessons like that from her. But I learned that to her, life was a live theater, and she was performing, and she gave the audience what they wanted. She had it. Two examples. We were watching Arthur. My dad and I assume mother and sister were there, but Dad and I were watching Arthur Godfrey's Talent Scouts, and a young lady came out that no one had ever heard of, named Patsy Cline, and she sang. She didn't sing crazy. Willie Nelson hadn't written that yet, but she didn't sing crazy. She sang a song I can sort of remember. I go out walking after midnight.
After midnight, I love
Yeah,
everything she's ever recorded.
yeah. And my father, who was sort of half watching, looked up after about the fourth note and said, "Big star."
Mm-hmm.
She had it. It showed that she had it, and if you had the ability to spot it when you saw it, there was from that moment on her first national exposure. There was no doubt that she was going to be a huge star. And the other one was on John Farmer's TV Ranch, one of those little local shows, where the guy is a local celebrity. He's also the moderator or the announcer at the wrestling match and so on. But he had his own little show, John Farmer's TV Ranch. And it was a talent show and sort of the scaled down version of Arthur Godfrey's Talent Scouts. And they said, all right, let us get set up here. And they brought out a hassock, one of those round, I'm not sure if today's people know what a hassock is, but round
Like a
things.
footstool. Yeah, it's a
Yeah,
footstool.
footstool or whatever. Rolled one of those out to the microphone and then lowered the microphone as low as it would go. And then she came out and somebody reached under her arms and lifted her up, put her on the hassock, and the microphone was right at her mouth. and I forget what she sang, but her name was Brenda Lee.
I was gonna say has to be Brenda Lee because she's so tiny and
Yeah, such a tiny little
huge
person.
voice,
And
huge
she hit
voice.
one or two notes, and Dad looked up again and said, "Big star." You
Hmm.
know, she had it. And so your goal, if you naturally have it, wonderful. But if you're a sales, marketing, public relations type person, your job is, if you don't have it, learn how to get it and find out what works and what doesn't work. And, were you saying carry myself differently? Yes. Well, act like I'm not like I am now. Yes. And over time, I am is a big thing in my motivational repertoire. You're not saying I'm going to be rich someday, maybe. You're saying I am
I
rich.
am right now.
I
Yep.
walk like a rich person. I dress like a rich person. Even my dad taught me the secret of. I went to Robert Hall's one day. I doubt they're still in business, but they used to be where you went if you didn't have any money, but you had to have a sport coat or something. Robert Hall's was known for their suits, suits in quotes, coming with two pairs of pants. So you could have the houndstooth or the black or the tan or the dark or whatever. So I'm now getting into business, having to make a positive presentation. I go to Robert Hall's, probably invested $80, which was enough to fill up the back seat of the car with cheap clothing and start into the house. I must have still been living at home, started into the house behind my father's chair, and he caught out of his peripheral vision. He said, "Whoa, what is that?" And I said, "It's Robert Hall. There's some clothing I got." He said, "Take it back. Still got the tags on it?" "Yes." "Take it back, get your money back. Then come back here and I will take you to Muses." Muses was the place where successful people got their clothing in Atlanta in that era. So I did, and we did. We went to Muses, and I looked at the prices. I said, "Dad, I can't afford all that stuff." He said, "You don't need all that stuff. You need one suit that looks good, and you keep it clean. And when people talk about you and somebody mentions how you dress, nobody remembers what you had on. They just remember you look good." So I started out with one suit, kept it clean and pressed, got compliments all the time, but I'm confident no one could have told you what the suit really was. It wasn't plaid, or bright pink with a yellow handkerchief. It
Hmm.
was tasteful, good looking, nondescript. And then I said to him at some point, uh, I think I can afford a second suit now. He said, "Well, you know who you go see my man, bring him your measurements or just bring him the suit you got on. It looks good, and get a second suit." He said, "You're not thinking about breaking loose at Robert Hall again, are you?" And I said, "The thought
No,
crossed my mind, but no."
no. Well,
So then I
there's
had two good suits and
there
finally
you go.
three. After a while, I had a closet full, but it was learning how to shape my image. And it didn't come naturally. Thank God I had a father who had already shaped his.
Hmm. And there's a reason why you always hear about the little black dress. It's little,
Yeah.
it's simple, it's unadorned. You can pull it out of your closet for a funeral, for an evening out. You can dress it up, dress it down, but it's always going to be classic. And I think that's what you're talking.
Hmm.
Find a
Exactly.
classic look and stick with it.
I went to all black, still sort of do, even casually. My Bengay shirts and slacks are 90% black, shaped by the fact that when I was doing 300 seminars a year and wasn't bright enough to dress myself, my tailor said to me, "Why don't you go to all black?" And I said, "That's sort of dull." He said, "I'll make it where it's not." But what he did was he put me in tailor-made black suits. I think I bought 5 or 6 the first time, and they fit like a second skin. They were so great. And then he said, "Now come over to this table, pick out your linings." And what we did
Oh,
was we picked out the wildest linings there were.
I remember you talking about that. Okay, keep
Yeah,
going.
and put them on the inside of of each jacket. and each jacket went with a vest, three-piece suit, and the back panel of the vest matched the coat that it went with. So it not only made me look good, three-piece, I looked like I was in a tuxedo almost. It made me look good on stage, walking up. And then after I'd been up a little while and could justify, oh, I'm hot and tired from working so hard, I would take off my coat slowly. Audience would react wildly because that was the first glimpse of the lining. And I'm
Mm-hmm.
talking about wild linings. I didn't, over the years, I bought probably 50 of them. And my instructions to my tailor was always the wildest, you know what I like? Now, the wildest lining possible. If you say to yourself, I don't know if he'd wear this, that's it. Say yes and put it in
It's
there.
just it's just tacky enough. Ben will love it.
Yeah. So that gave me the opportunity to slowly take off my jacket and get sometimes a standing ovation for the lining. And then when they calmed down, I turned around and they saw the back panel on my vest and they would react exactly the same way again. That was my little black dress. And if I didn't want that reaction, I just left the suit coat buttoned. No, except for a little
Right.
glimpse here and there. No one ever saw it. No one ever mentioned it. So my little black dress was a three-piece tailor-made suit with wild linings. I really miss them. As they wore out and I quit wearing suits on a regular basis, the kids would fight over who got to wear them on Halloween and the secret was they'd turn them inside out.
Out, right.
There's
But what kinda tie could you possibly wear?
black, black, white shirt, black
Oh,
tie.
see, I would not have I wouldn't have thought of that. I'm
Yeah.
thinking you've got this wild leopard print, you know,
Hmm.
lining, and you're probably wearing a purple tie with it,
No,
so black makes
white
sense.
shirt, black tie.
Got it. Got it.
So it looked like I was going to the inauguration of the Queen until I showed you my lining. But that's
But
again, image. Shape your image. Don't leave it
right,
to accident.
right.
You want me to tell the Coca-Cola story? You mentioned that when we first started.
Yeah, I do because it's important. We've talked about it a little bit, but it's such a timely story, and I did write about it, and so did Napoleon Hill, so he did it first, but it's important, particularly with what's going on with Cracker Barrel right now.
And
I'll
and
be honest, I don't know that they'll ever recover from that.
but they were going down the toilet anyway, I'm
They
told.
were
So
yeah, they were big
maybe
time.
it's too little, too late, or something. I don't know. And the lady, the chairman of the board, don't know her name, don't want to know her name, who made this dreaded mistake, also doesn't look like she's ever been in a Cracker Barrel.
No.
That's not her normal hangout. But anyway, for treating your customers properly and so on, there's a great lesson here. Everybody said, well, she should have learned the Bud Light lesson. No, Bud Light was stupid, and so was what she did was stupid, but there's a deeper one that they all should have learned from if they had read the Coca-Cola book, and I forget its name, but it's about the heads of Coca-Cola and the new Coke disaster. And so listen up if you're new to this, because there's an underlying message. Uh, and it's not New Coke didn't taste right. So they did their focus groups, their taste tests. They did everything right, except why would you mess with the largest selling brand of liquid in the world? That might be the first question to ask yourself. But anyway, they did all the technical stuff and then they released it in a complete disaster, almost brought Coke to its knees. They had to go back to classic Coke and so on. But here's what they missed, and it's also what Cracker Barrel missed, Bud Light to a lesser degree. The chairman of the board of Coca-Cola is sitting in the bar of the Atlanta Athletic Club where I grew up. The Atlanta Athletic Club was downtown. Our branch was the East Lake Country Club, where Bobby Jones lived and played out of and so on. Upscale, lovely place. He's sitting in the bar downtown Atlanta, Atlanta Athletic Club. No one knows who he is. I'm chairman of the board of Coke today. I don't know his name. Wouldn't know him if I fell over him. Same with all the others. To get back to the Candlers in the early 1900s, late 1800s, unknown character. So he's sitting at the bar and just waiting for his wife. And there's two guys, a stool or two down from him, talking. And the talk of Atlanta at the time was Coca-Cola. It was before. If you live in Atlanta, Coke is a constant source of conversation and so on. But this one guy says to his friend, the truth is, I like it better, meaning the new Coke. Truth is, I like it better, but I will never let those sons of bitches know. And the chairman of the board of Coke is sitting there listening to this, puts his drink down, gets up, goes to a payphone. This is prior to cell phones being everywhere, calls his office and says, convene the board tomorrow morning. I found the problem. And the problem was they had violated the trust relationship with their customers. Cracker Barrel just did a very similar thing. But truth is, I like it better, but I'll never let those sons of bitches know.
Well, they were
And
not treated well, not the audience, the customers. The
yeah,
customers just expected to buy it because there it was, and Coca-Cola said, "Here it is, and we're not gonna talk to you about it. We're not gonna share our thinking with you. It's just what there is." And they
yep.
didn't like that.
And they brought back classic Coke, which is old Coke, and it's doing well. And new Coke is doing well now because now it's not a slap in the face to the lifelong followers, especially the Southerners. Because
Right.
as you know, if you're from the South, Coca-Cola is a food group. Food
See,
group.
I don't think I've really ever had a full Coke. I don't drink soda. I just don't like sweet things. I don't like, and to me, and Pepsi is just give me a sugar cube and some water. I mean, that's just nasty stuff. But I couldn't tell you one from another because I never really drank it. But I do remember that people reacted very poorly. Kind of like they did
Oh,
with the NFL and the kneeling. It's like, oh no, you didn't. You just
yeah,
spit in our faces.
exactly. Don't spit in your customers' faces. Don't
Right.
make radical changes without their participation and
Or
knowledge
permission. You need their
or permission.
permission.
Yeah, in
Right.
some cases, permission. If we woke up tomorrow morning and Trump had changed the American flag
Oh
to
God.
red stripe, blue stripe, white stripe, and only 3 stars because he liked it better, and they were gold.
Of
Uh,
course. Yeah. He
because
does
yeah,
like his cold.
there would be a national uprising rivaling the Civil War.
Oh, I would
That's the
join in on that. And I don't
yeah,
join crowds, but I would be out there yelling and screaming too.
that would be the Coca-Cola mistake. That would be the Cracker Barrel mistake. And even though I'm a Southerner, I've never been in a Cracker Barrel. Gigi tells me there's one in Sacramento. She's been to it a couple of years ago. I've never been in one. I'm not anti. I've just never seen one because I
Yeah,
don't
I've
live
been
in
in
the South.
one once, but and you and I were talking about this. I like spicy food. So do you. You carry,
Yep.
you carry those little bottles of hot sauce with you. It's too bland for me. It tastes to me like California food. Every time I go back to California, I'm like, can somebody give me some seasoning? Anything? Okay. And now I carry my own Tony Chachere's with me, but it's just so bland. And that's the way Cracker Barrel is. It was, oh, it's got good biscuits. Well, so do I. I bake them at home, but I enjoyed it. It was fun. I never went back. It just wasn't my kind of food.
That's I've heard a lot of people say that, and that may be one of the reasons they were circling the drain anyway. But they certainly have sped up the process. And
Yeah, there are a lot
the
of political
interior,
reasons. Yeah,
yeah, the
a lot of political
interior
reasons.
the interior makeovers are even less liked. But it's hard to explain to somebody why you don't like a restaurant because they changed the tabletops or something. So the logo became the focal point. It was easier to explain. Truth is, at the risk of sounding like the guys at the bar at the Atlanta Athletic Club, the new logo, if I'm not a Cracker Barrel fan, so I don't care one way or the other, but the new logo is easier to read. Just the text, the two words. I don't care about the guy on the side. Leave him or don't leave him. But when I first saw it, I thought, what's the fuss? The logo is easier to read, crisper, cleaner. That's what it should have been to start with. Well, it was that and the interior and the food. And it's
Mhm.
not cozy like grandma's kitchen anymore. It's like Denny's or
Oh,
whatever your
yeah.
local thing is. But
I
if
don't.
they had read the Coca-Cola book, they never would have made that mistake.
And they shouldn't have. I mean, somebody should have had sense enough to say, "You know, this has a history, right?" I was talking with our mutual friend, David, Brown yesterday. We just decided to get on the phone and have a we hadn't chatted in a while. Somehow, and I don't even know how we got there, I don't think we worked backwards from Cracker Barrel, but we started talking about Stuckey's. Oh, I know, because he's traveling with his grandkids, and they like to go to Stuckey's, and all I could think was, "Oh, those god awful pecan logs." I don't know about they're just oh my gosh, they're so bad. And then we kinda made it back to, there's some things that are just part of your family history. They're part
Yep.
of your childhood. If I were to see a Stuckey's on the road, I'd pull in. Would I buy a pecan log? God, no. But still, you
But that's
couldn't give
part of
it
the
to
trip.
me.
When we go, especially from Atlanta to Florida,
Right.
Stuckey's, the car was Stuckey soured. It would turn in whether Dad
I
intended
know.
it to or not. Because
I know.
and the same thing, dinner, Howard Johnson's,
Oh,
uh,
really?
and the fried clams. Yeah, the fried clams at Howard Johnson's were unbelievably good. Maybe because I couldn't get fried clams anywhere else. I really don't recall.
Yeah. Yeah.
But that was when Howard Johnson started fading away. I don't know if there's any of them left or not. I said, no, no, you can't
Where where am I
go out
gonna
of
get
it.
my clams?
Yeah, haven't been in one in 30, 40 years, but don't close it. Those traditions die hard. And somewhere in your product line, ladies and gentlemen, you have a product or a service that your customers really love, and you probably won't know how much they love it until you screw with it. This awkward silence is brought to us by
Sorry, Denise Griffitts. Sorry.
by Denise. She'll edit it out, so you'll
No,
probably
I
wonder what
won't.
we're talking about.
I really won't. It's gonna stay. I'm too lazy to edit it out. But, and I'm trying to think if I have anything in my portfolio that I haven't sold in a while that I've never really talked about anymore, but people are probably still going, "Oh, if I really need to have something done with my website, I will call Denise."
Yep.
Huh. I should start asking questions.
Here's a
Really?
thought. Yeah.
So now you're just being mean to me. But I wanted to ask you, ooh, we've got about 10 more minutes. When you mentor others now, and I know you do you find yourself repeating the same phrases or stories that your mentors told you?
Sure. Because they become part of me. A lot of them have become so much a part of me, I forgot where I first heard them. And I always try and if I know I learned it from somebody, I will acknowledge that even if I can't think of the person. And an inside joke, when you hear me quote Harry Truman, that means I don't remember who said it. There's a couple of things Harry Truman said that I still repeat, but the for real. But if you hear me quote Harry Truman, that's Latin for I don't remember where I heard it, but it wasn't mine. I want to give credit to somebody.
Mhm.
So yes, I do, because I was blessed with some wonderful people who taught me some great lessons. And as far as attribution to other people, keep in mind, it's one of the reasons I attribute things to Harry Truman. People believe they take more credibility, they give it more credibility when it's from somebody they know of, heard of, etc., versus you. Because there's the old saying, it's hard to be a prophet in your own hometown.
Mm-hmm.
uh, in Placerville. I'm Gigi Ronzoni's husband, and we don't know what he does. It's very difficult to be a star here, nor do I want to be. I want to be left alone, so that's
Right.
fine. But if I wanted to get somebody's attention here, and occasionally I'll do it. Well, one day I was talking to Dr. Napoleon Hill, and you see the eyebrows go up. You were talking to Dr. Napoleon Hill? Yeah, he worked for me. That adds
So
a
did Zig
lot of,
Ziglar. People don't
and
remember that Zig Ziglar worked for you as well.
yeah, lots of them did. Zig might even be a quicker way to do it because of the unusualness of his name. There are people who have heard of Zig Ziglar and don't know why. Napoleon Hill's a bit different, but Napoleon Hill has made a comeback. Uh, he told me one day, I said, your work's going to live forever. And he said, no, not really. What I've done and me will soon be forgotten. But the lessons hopefully won't. They just won't mention me. And I think I've been a contributing factor to that. But there are a lot of reasons.
Sorry.
Napoleon Hill, to some degree, is at least as famous now as he was at his peak. And his peak didn't really last very long. Uh, he, uh, he had a little run in the late 30s, early 40s. Then he had another one when a business partner of mine gave Clem Stone a copy of Think and Grow Rich, and Clem Stone turned it back into a bestseller and made Hill famous to a new generation. And then he faded away. And I think it's now just a bunch of us who really like his work and the quality of his work have brought him back to life again. But he's had two or three peaks in his career. But I always attribute things to people if I know, because it makes me look smarter and more honest. I
Mm-hmm.
don't claim I have things out floating around that are mine that people don't attribute to me, and that aggravates the hell out of me. If they don't know out of ignorance, fine. I don't know where a lot of the stuff I know came from. But if they know better and are trying to take credit for it, that really aggravates me.
Yeah, and I know what you're talking about too, but we won't mention it. It's a very famous phrase, but yeah, it is what it is. It's been relocated many times. So, but
Yeah.
it's still yours. I wanted to ask you, your biography is being written and it should be published, I guess, September, October, pretty soon, huh?
Yeah, it's out of my hands, so I don't know. But Jason
Yeah.
Williford says he's down to final touches and tweaks, that he's pretty much got it
Right.
written.
And David and I were talking about that. He said, that book's going to be ready when? I said, I know. And I need to get mine ready and get it to you for
Yeah.
publication. But what I really wanted to ask you, and this just popped in while I was listening to you, because we're talking about mentors, the mentors who shaped you, your aunt. I'd never heard about her. When you're talking with Jason and you're, working with him on this book, are you discovering mentors that had a profound impact on you, but you've forgotten all about them?
Yeah, and it's the not famous ones.
Right, right,
Um,
like your aunt.
yeah, everybody knows Og Mandino and Zig Ziglar and so and so. And then in talking with Jason and digging around in the old memory bank, I think of somebody that the most famous of the not famous is Merle Frazier, a friend of mine, who was one of my mentors at the time. He reminded me of a younger version of my father. They sort of looked alike and carried themselves similarly. So I've spent a little more time thinking about Merle than I should. I should all the time, but then I do most of the time. And then the obscure ones. Many people say, "Who's in your mastermind group?" And I said, "Well, 15, 20 people, I guess, that I sort of consider a mastermind group, and 50 who don't know that they've been in the group for years."
Right. I do the
Because
same thing.
in a casual conversation, they think we're just chatting. I'm making mental notes. And if I know them well enough, I'll have a little memo pad beside me. I said, "Do you mind if I've got a short-term memory thing. Do you mind if I make a few notes?" And after they get used to it in a few minutes, they sort of loosen back up. So lots of people, and some of them are people who they're mentors to me because they show me what not to do, how
Right.
not to conduct myself. And I've told you this one before, but one of my favorite mentors, now gone, was a pig farmer who owned acreage next to 10 acres we bought when we first moved up here. He had a third grade education. His name was Jay Maxwell. And I'm not sure he could read or write, but he was one of the wisest people I ever met. You know, he could look at a dog running across the pasture and come out with a Socrates type observation, not knowing it was a Socrates type observation. So I've had those wander through my life, but a lot of them are just regular old folk like me who, in casual conversation, taught me a lot. And it's usually more than that. It's how I watched them, how they conducted themselves. Uh, Jimmy Rucker, the greatest salesman I ever personally worked with, my business partner and long-term friend, uh, taught me more about selling than he will ever know because I used to study him. And it wasn't what he said, it was how he conducted and carried himself. Everybody loved Jimmy Rucker.
And you mentioned pigs, and of course you had to. One of my very earliest mentors, I didn't know he was a mentor at the time, and I won't go into the whole story because we don't have time, but I talk with my hands. I'm not Italian, but I talk with my hands. And I was at a livestock auction, and
Oh,
I bought two little piglets. I didn't want them. I didn't need them. I didn't know what the heck to do with them. So I got some pillowcases, bundled them up, put them in the trunk of my car, propped it open, and went straight to the feed store. And I ran in there and I was talking to anybody and everybody. Does anybody want pigs? You can have them. I haven't named them yet. They're not, you can have them.
they're, they're not family members yet.
Not yet. And I can't eat anything I've looked in the eye. So somebody's got to take these pigs to their house and get them out of my car. And this tiny little old farmer, I mean, he was little and he was wearing the overalls, and he was standing next to me, and I wasn't paying any attention to him because I couldn't see him really. I mean, he was below my sight line. And I heard this, honey, and I looked at him. I said, "Hi, how are you?" He said, "I want you to know that you're the best natural salesperson I have ever come across." And I looked at him. I wanted to hit him. I wanted to slug him. I
You
was
thought that
so
was an
insulted.
insult?
It was an insult. And honestly, I think about that man I mean, I didn't get ugly with him. I just looked at him and said, "Okay." I didn't know what he was talking about. And as I grew up a little bit, I finally figured out what he was talking about, and I went, "I'll be darned." I think about that man every single day. I never saw him again, but he had something to say, and he said it, and it's been with me all these years.
That's one of those great examples of you learn a lesson and you don't know it was a lesson.
I didn't.
But it's like the sun coming up in the morning slowly, and now you can see the tree in your front yard, and then it rises and rises, and then it's a big part of your life. Those are the types of men. I have numerically more mentors than that, like that, than I do official mentors who sat down to teach me something.
Right. And if you're paying attention and if you remember them and finally the lesson lands, you'll be very grateful for it.
Yeah.
At the moment, I was like, I'm not a salesperson. I was thinking, skeevy car sales. And, at the time, everybody wanted me to go into the insurance industry. No, no, and no. I never would do that. I still say no. I'm not going to join your company. No. But I remember just being terribly insulted. And then down the road, I still remember feeling like I should have found him and said thank you. But I didn't. I
Yep.
didn't know who he was.
Well, keep your eyes open. He might still be around.
Oh, no. No, he's not. He was quite elderly at the time, and this was 20 years or more ago.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
One of my favorites is when somebody comes up to me and having appeared in front of 10,000 groups, 5,000 of them paid, millions of people cumulatively, it happens more than you might think for a relatively unknown person, but they say, you probably don't remember me, but 31 years ago on a Wednesday in Dallas, you said, and if it's part of my standard repertoire, I say, oh, yes, I remember that. Sometimes it's not anything I remember saying, but you never know the impact you're going to have on somebody. You are a mentor.
Right.
While you're trying to decide what a mentor is and whether to be one or not, everybody listen to this. You are a mentor now, positive or negative, whether you realize it or not. Craft that. It's a skill. Craft it carefully.
And it will help in your personal life as well.
Mm-hmm.
If you craft yourself to be the best you can be and work on that every day and add to it every day, you can't go wrong. We're out of time. We're so
All right.
smart. We've been just talking and mentoring people, and we're just brilliant. Okay, well, I was going to tell everybody go get the books, The Closers 1 and 2, and we're running out of time. So go to eBay, Ronzoni Books, Ronzone Books. Just look for them on eBay, and you can get parts 1, part 2. You can get all the Closers books, but for for this podcast, we really would like you to have at a minimum part 2 because that's the one we're working with most of the time. So anyway, next week, Ben, I think we're going to talk about the daily success system that Napoleon Hill taught you, and then
So,
you taught me.
yeah, that'll be fun to do. I've discovered a new way to explain it where people understand it, and it's probably the most valuable thing Dr. Hill ever taught me.
Great. Well, listen, I will see you next Wednesday, everybody. Thank you. And by the way, we love to answer questions. Those have kind of slowed down a little bit. So send us questions, whether it's about marketing, sales, sales mastery, podcasting, whatever it is. If we can answer it, we will. If we can't, we'll just say, uh-oh, I have to go look that one up. But
We'll pretend like that we got disconnected.
yeah, there's no, I mean, somebody will ask me something about podcasting. You'd think I'd know everything. I don't. And I'll have to go, I have to think about that. So it's better than telling them a lie, right?
Yep.
Okay, well, everybody, thank you. We will see you next week. Ben, have a delightful week.
Same to you. Have a
Did I,
wonderful
s-
day too.
I will. Did I sound sincere?
You did.
Oh, good, because normally sincerity costs extra. Okay, good. I'll talk to you next week. Bye.
Bye.